Can the Dallas Cowboys spoil banner night for the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football? Crossover Thursday for Locked On Eagles and Locked On Cowboys coming your way.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles and Locked On Cowboys your first listen each and every day. This is Crossover Thursday, the first one of the 2025 NFL season, and it is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I'm Louie DiBiase, the host of the Locked On Eagles podcast. He's Marcus Mosher, host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Eagles Cowboys tonight to kick off the 2025 NFL season. Kickoff is at 8:20 right now on FanDuel. The Eagles are 8.5-point favorites. We'll see if that moves, but the over-under is at 47.5. Marcus, we got storylines to get into, matchups to watch, keys to victory, and I want to start with you, man, with storylines, because I think the elephant in the room, the obvious one, is the post-Micah Parsons world for the Dallas Cowboys and just the drama that's been surrounding this organization, even more so than normal. Like, the Cowboys normally are drama, but, man, what's the last few weeks been like for you?
As I say, Dallas Cowboys storylines, like, my
I was saying, but this is another level, man.
Yes, and there's a lot of different things we can get into, whether this is a smart team-building thing, was Micah Parsons a drain, like, on the energy in the building. But I think for the most part, Louis, like, Cowboy fans are they're tired, man. They're just tired of all the drama and the nonsense and Jerry Jones. And I think they're so looking forward to football actually being back. The only problem is that they're the biggest underdogs in week one against Philadelphia Eagles, the team they hate the most. So it's kind of like, oh, we're excited that football's back, but this could be rough.
I agree. Like, thinking of it through a Cowboys perspective, to watch your most heated rival raise the banner, raise the Lombardi trophy in front of you after you just lost one of the most talented players in franchise history. Like you said, I'm sure it's a good distraction to have the season start, but that's got to be a tough pill to swallow. And I don't think it's to the same degree of like when Andrew Luck retired with the Colts, but just thinking about the timing of the Parsons trade, like right before the season, and how I don't think it'll make Dallas fans hopeless, but don't you agree it just like kind of completely changes the outlook of the season for you guys?
I remember talking with Landon McCool, my co-host, and like before the Cowboys even traded Micah, it just felt like the Micah drama had sucked all the air out of this season, right? Like, we should be talking about like Dak being healthy and George Pickens and your new first-round offensive lineman, but this Micah Parsons cloud just hung over them all offseason. And now that the trade has happened, it's like we're all talking about what next offseason is going to bring and what are they going to do with the first-round picks. And yeah, you're right. Like, we just haven't had a chance to get excited about the season. Yeah. And I think there's good reason why maybe Cowboy fans aren't excited about this season. But yeah, I think at least once the games start, we'll be talking about that. At least it's something.
What are your expectations for this football team now, like in 2025? I mean, they still have firepower in the passing game. We'll talk about matchups to watch. That's something really for me I'm looking at for the Eagles defense against that Cowboys passing game. But like without Parsons now on that defensive line, I mean, like what are the expectations now, at least from a fan perspective and from your perspective?
I think the fan perspective is that this is going to be a very mediocre team, like hovering around that 6 to 7 win range. I'm sure, and listen, I've talked to a lot of Cowboy fans. They're hoping this is a repeat of like 2014 or 2016, where they won a bunch of games with Benson Mayowa and Jeremy Mincy as their top pass rushers. I just don't know how realistic that is, right? But I also think there's a chance that this thing could really get ugly. I mean, their schedule, and you know this because Philadelphia has the same schedule, even just a little bit harder. It's a brutal schedule.
It's tough.
And if you get out to a 1-4 start, a 2-5 start, you might not be able to recover from that. So I think for Cowboy fans, what they're just wanting to see from this season is some kind of hope, like something that can get us excited about the direction of this team. Show us that there's a plan, because I think for a lot of Cowboy fans, they don't see one.
Yeah, and I think for Eagles fans, it does put things in perspective of how lucky they are, I think, with the ownership they have and the general manager they have with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, because you look at Dallas and like how Jerry Jones has run the organization, and there's really nothing you can do about it because he owns the team and he's decided that he's going to be the general manager. So for the Eagles, I mean, they're in a completely different situation right now. They're trying to repeat and sustain a level of success that they never have in franchise history. They've really never been this close, this equipped to repeat as champions. Even, I don't want to use the D word, but like a dynastic kind of football team is what they're aspiring to be. And they're set up long term to do that more than they've ever been.
Well,
but
and Louis, real quick, I was going to say,
yeah.
I don't know how much this factored in, but I have to believe that the Cowboys were looking at their roster feeling like, okay, hey, Dak, CeeDee, Micah, all great players.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's our core and we're paying them 45% of our cap, and we know that we're not even close to what Philadelphia is right now, does it make sense to continue forward with that? Or start stockpiling picks and assets so when Philadelphia is kind of getting to the end of the run, and you can see it, like we kind of know when this is going to get a little bit ugly for Philadelphia, maybe that's when your time is to strike. Yeah. I don't know how much that affected it at all, but I would have to think that would be in the back of their minds.
I just think, though, don't you agree? It's crazy. Like, I understand that logic, but to then turn around and say, and therefore that's why we are not going to invest in one of the best edge rushers at a premier position that's not even hit his prime yet. I don't know. Like, that to me is, I agree with you that Jerry probably thought of it that way to a degree, but I just don't agree with that logic.
Neither do I, by the way.
Yeah,
I think
which I know.
You keep your elite players. They're trying to spin this as, hey, this is better for us this year and in the long term. I think there are Cowboy fans that can buy the long-term perspective, but not the short-term.
I think for the Eagles, again, you look at the outlook of the NFC East the last 20 years, Marcus, too, a team has not repeated as division champion since the Eagles did in 2003 and 2004. So there's a lot of turnover in this division. I think from top to bottom, it's very competitive. Even Dallas, like if it's a mediocre season, they still have firepower on offense. Washington made the NFC Championship last year. The Giants, I think, improved vastly on paper in the 2025 offseason. And the Eagles' schedule is tough. And I think like that's the big storyline for me is can they sustain a level of success that a lot of NFC East teams just haven't been able to? Can they avoid the fate of the 2018 Eagles, the 2023 Eagles, teams that regressed pretty significantly after a Super Bowl win or a Super Bowl run? And this year they've suffered from a lot of the same things that those teams did on paper, where they lost a lot of starters that got big contracts elsewhere. Other teams wanted to pay their players, I would say like B players as A players, and the Eagles couldn't compete. So that's like what I'm looking at, especially in this game. Like a prime example is like a Dory Jackson going up against those receivers at corner. Can Howie do a better job of masking those departures? Because that was a big thing on field those 2 seasons that really held them back from being a Super Bowl contender, not just for 1 year, but year after year after year. And the entire division, I feel like, has kind of dealt with that in the 21st century.
Yeah, and Howie's really good at putting together a team with a bunch of assets and draft picks. So now you got to see what those guys can do. Like Nolan Smith had his moments. Now he's going to be a full-time starter. And what does that look like? And what does the backup situation look like? That defensive line was really the reason why they won the Super Bowl last year. They took some big hits with their depth. And again, Philadelphia couldn't do a bunch about that because Milton Williams is getting paid like a top-tier defensive tackle in the league. Now you get to see what does the rest of the depth look like.
Yeah, I think when you look at both teams, it's really interesting from like talking about a perspective of like roster building, like and how to go about it. To see these two teams in the different timelines they're at, I think is fascinating as just a pure NFL fan. And this game, it's going to be interesting. I think there are a lot of matchups to watch. And when you look at both sides of the ball, I think there will be a few matchups that really dictate if this is going to be a close game or not. Thursday night, which is tonight, 8:20 p.m. kickoff. We'll get into matchups to watch right here on Crossover Thursday. Coming up next, Locked On Eagles and Locked On Cowboys. Today's episode of Locked On Eagles and Locked On Cowboys, Crossover Thursday, we are brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For me, looking at college football last week, it was Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos who upset the 8th seed in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Had just 152 yards through the air, but had a couple big explosive passing attempts, 78 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. Florida State was able to upset the 8th-ranked team in the world when they were unranked. Incredible performance by Tommy Castellanos. And just like Castellanos delivered for Florida State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it all up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. And guys, today's show, we are also sponsored, Crossover Thursday, by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anybody else. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details that make the big plays. Just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Crossover Thursday, Locked On Eagles, Locked On Cowboys. I'm Louie DiBiase of Locked On Eagles. He's Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys. We are kicking off the 2025 NFL season tonight, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time at Lincoln Financial Field. Eagles-Cowboys, one of the NFL's most historic and heated rivalries. And Marcus, again, the Eagles, as you mentioned, biggest favorites of Week 1. According to FanDuel, they are 8.5-point favorites. The over-under now at 47.5. If the Cowboys are going to at least come close to upsetting the Eagles and spoiling their banner-raising night, what are some of the key matchups for you? The Cowboys have to win that matchup to at least come close.
Yeah, the first thing is that these Week 1 games across the league tend to be a little fluky, right? And I think that's where the Cowboys will need to capitalize, right? But if they're going to win this game, it's going to be the offense, obviously, and they're going to have to start out fast. There's just no way that this defense, the way that they're currently constructed, has the horsepower to come back in a game, right? Like they need to get a lead and then just try to grind it out. So for me, that's CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. And it's why the Cowboys made a big investment in Pickens this offseason, is they want to, in their minds, have 2 number 1 receivers that they can attack down the field. And while Philadelphia's got a really good corner in Quinyon Mitchell, it's that other cornerback spot, which you've been talking about all offseason long on Locked On Eagles. Is it Adoree Jackson? Is it Jacorian Bennett? Like who is going to be that guy either covering CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? And can the Cowboys exploit that matchup? You can believe that you best believe they're going to try their best to accomplish that.
I completely agree with you. I think that Adoree Jackson versus George Pickens matchup, depending on if Quinyon Mitchell shadows Lamb, I'm very curious to see what Vic Fangio's plan is. They did not do that much in 2024, but Fangio did say this summer that they would look into that if the matchup dictates it. Also, Quinyon's been playing more on the left side and the right side of corner, whereas last year he was primarily on just the left side because in a Vic Fangio defense, they're playing zone like 90%. But I think this is the kind of matchup where you want Quinyon going up against number 88 all game. If they do that, naturally, if George Pickens is on the outside, he's going to get Adoree Jackson a lot. And I, Marcus, think that Adoree kind of won by default in the cornerback battle. I think they really wanted Kelee Ringo to win it. The reason they let Darius Slay walk to Pittsburgh in free agency, Isaiah Rodgers to Minnesota, is because they thought Ringo was going to take that next step. And maybe the front office still believes that, but I don't think Fangio is as much of a Kelee Ringo guy as Howie Roseman is. And so Adoree Jackson's just kind of the veteran with experience, but he's a liability, in my opinion, I think, at least from what I've seen this summer, that they didn't have last year. And I don't know if you agree, but I just think Pickens was the perfect addition to that passing attack. I feel like he's like the exact kind of wide receiver too that Dak Prescott would want from the way he likes to throw the football.
Yeah, and what they really needed was an outside receiver that could stretch the field and make plays on 50-50 balls. They just didn't have that. And one of the reasons why it makes so much sense is because CeeDee Lamb will spend a lot of his snaps in the slot. So if you can have Lamb inside and then Pickens on the outside, that's what makes this offense dangerous. And I will say with Adoree Jackson, like, listen, I was a big fan of him coming out of USC, but every time you ask CeeDee Lamb about Adoree Jackson, like his eyes just light up because he's had monster games. I would assume that Philadelphia is going to do everything possible to make sure that that's not the matchup and that they have Adoree on the outside and with some safety help. But yeah, again, if the Cowboys have any shot at winning this game, those guys are going to have to go off. But Louis, we haven't seen them at all in the preseason. Like, they didn't take a single snap. And I know Philadelphia rested a lot of guys as well. I think we could see some really rusty and sloppy football out of the gate. The Cowboys can't afford that. They have to start fast if they want to win this game.
No, I completely agree. And the Eagles, too, if you look at the first half of last year when they were still knocking off the rust on offense and finding who they were from an identity perspective on offense, they were not a good first quarter offense. I don't think they scored a first quarter touchdown for the first month of the season. And they've kind of dealt with those issues a lot in the past, especially when they had to change offensive coordinators, which it feels like it's every year at this point. And they're doing that again from Kellen Moore to Kevin Patullo. So that's another thing I'm watching is Kevin Patullo as a play caller. Like, what is this offense going to look like? And I think what I want them to do to make sure that they're not rusty on offense and they can start fast. I know they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley. Those are the faces of this offense. But I want to get Dallas Goedert going early, and because he can win in so many ways at the tight end position, over the middle of the field, run after the catchability, in the screen game. Like, he's a very good vertical threat as a tight end. If you can get Dallas Goedert paired up against those Cowboys linebackers one-on-one at times and get those mismatches, number 88's a player that, again, I think he's kind of fourth in the lineup from when you're talking about like touches and volume on offense. But Marcus, I think Dallas Goedert against that Cowboys second and third level of the defense, that's something that I think, Jalen Hurts can get more into a rhythm when he targets Goedert, and I think Dallas Goedert could be crucial in this game early on.
And that's a really good call because the Cowboys have two new starting linebackers in Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn. Both of those guys are downhill run stoppers, more so Kenneth Murray than Sanborn. Their calling card isn't their coverage. Now, we're going to see a lot of zone and stuff, but I think you're right to circle Goedert because the Cowboys, they believe the strength of their defense right now is the secondary. Deron Bland just got a new contract. Trayvon Diggs is going to play. You've got Kyer Elam, who's had a phenomenal camp. I do think Philadelphia can win some matchups there as well, but it's going to be the underneath stuff. Like if Dallas Goedert's getting open, beating these linebackers in coverage, the Cowboys have no chance here.
What do you think about going back to the Cowboys offense real quick? The Cowboys rushing attack. I mean, normally Dallas has had a great offensive line. I mean, the days of Ezekiel Elliott, a really good run offense as well. But with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, like what do the Eagles, what should they expect about this Dallas rushing attack? It feels different on paper, at least.
I have no idea because, again, the Cowboys' starting offensive line did not play in the preseason outside of a couple snaps for Tyler Booker. Javonte Williams didn't take a single snap in the preseason because the Cowboys thought he was too good to get any reps. We've got a new offensive coordinator in Clayton Adams and a new offensive line coach in Connor Riley. Like I honestly have no idea what to expect from that unit, but my guess is it's not going to be a lot of Javonte Williams carrying the ball. He might get 8 to 10 to 12 carries, but it's going to be like Kevontae Turpin getting 3 or 4 carries. It's going to be Hunter Lipke getting a couple carries, and they hope that they can kind of smoke and mirror a run game. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball consistently downhill against this front.
That's why, again, I go back to that Adoree Jackson against the Cowboys receivers matchup, because I think I don't want to get too confident in what the Eagles have, but I think that's like the only way Dallas can really beat this team is if Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens, and Ferguson too, a tight end I really like, if they're on, then it is a close game. But like you said, I mean, the rushing attack is just so up in the air. That's also why I'm watching the Eagles defensive line, because, Marcus, there's a lot of new in that matchup in the trenches in general, not just on Dallas's offensive line, but the Eagles are replacing Josh Sweat. They're replacing Brandon Graham this year and Milton Williams. They all either left for free agency or in retirement. So Jalix Hunt and Moro Ijoma, like seeing them go up against the left side of that Cowboys offensive line, that's going to be really important because we know, as you even said earlier, like what the Eagles have in Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. But Hunt and Ijoma showed a lot of promise last year, but now in a much bigger role, can they sustain that efficiency? That's another matchup. I'm like, what? It's a big question. There's a lot of excitement around Hunt and Ijoma, but this is a different approach Howie Roseman has taken with pass rushers than he normally likes to know what he has there because he doesn't like to settle, and he's going a lot more off of projection and young players. So I'm excited about Hunt and Ijoma against that Dallas offensive line on the left side.
And we should mention Tyler Guyton, the Cowboys left tackle.
Yeah.
He missed basically all of training camp and preseason with a knee injury. He is expected to play.
See, it's very young in general in this matchup.
Very, very young. One more thing I want to say real quick before we move on. the teams that gave Philadelphia the most trouble last year were the teams that had like multiple receivers that could go out and win one-on-one matchups, whether that was like the Rams in the divisional round who came very close to winning that game, Tampa Bay early in the season. I think that's going to be the Cowboys formula. It's like, hey, Prescott, you're going to throw the ball 45, 50 times. We need you to be accurate and efficient, and that's how we're going to try to win this game. We're going to try to win it 35-31.
It's going to be a good game, I think. If you think the Cowboys are going to have success in the passing game, probably take that over of 47.5 right now on FanDuel. I think that's how Dallas wins it, is it kind of has to be a shootout, and I think the Eagles are going to try to probably make it the opposite kind of football game. And we'll get into that coming up next. Keys to the victory for both sides right here on Crossover Thursday. Locked on Eagles and Locked on Cowboys. Crossover Thursday today is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. It's FanDuel. The NFL season is here tonight. Eagles Cowboys 8:20 p.m. kickoff. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props. I'm going with Devontae Smith, the over on 60 receiving yards and a touchdown today. If you want to build a same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds, you can do it all on FanDuel. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to not just Sundays, but we got Thursday night football today, Friday night, Saturday college ball, Sunday, Monday, 5 straight days of football. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we're wrapping up Crossover Thursday. Locked on Eagles, Locked on Cowboys, the first game of the 2025 NFL season, tonight at Lincoln Financial Field. Marcus, we've kind of already alluded to like how the Cowboys pull this upset off. For the Eagles, we kind of know what it will take for them to get the job done as well. If you had to say like a few, like 3 keys to victory for Dallas, like how do they upset the champs?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's going to be the passing game. The Cowboys are going to have to be really good in the passing game. So that's number 1. Number 2 is they're going to have to play a clean game. Like they just don't have right now, at least compared to Philadelphia, the talent level to win the game straight up. So you can't have a bunch of penalties. You can't have turnovers and fumbles and all that kind of stuff. So play a fairly clean game. And again, I'm saying fairly because we know week 1 is sloppy across the league.
Super rusty, yeah.
Yeah, super rusty. But it's really winning in the margins. And that means, special teams. The Cowboys have one of the best kickers in the league in Brandon Aubrey. Like make some field goals, some long field goals that maybe you weren't expecting. They have Kevontae Turpin, one of the league's best kick and punt returners. Create an explosive play in that part of the game. Maybe you get a big punt by Brian Anger that pins Philadelphia inside the 5. You're going to have to win kind of scrappy like that until you figure out the rest of the team and how this defense is going to play out. Do I think they could do it? Absolutely. Like Dak Prescott's record against NFC East opponents is very, very good.
And he's good against the Eagles, Marcus. He's had a pretty good track record against Philly.
Now, he doesn't have a great track record against Vic Fangio. That's one of the knocks here.
Fair.
But you do have a quarterback that knows this team really well. Would I be shocked if it happened? No. I also wouldn't be betting on it either.
I think Dak Prescott, that's the thing I'm looking at with him is, again, when a team is just outmatched in pretty much every area of the roster, it comes down to quarterback play a lot of the times because a great quarterback can mask all of that. And those kind of guys, especially early on, like you said, when teams are still figuring out who they are, great quarterback play can get you wins early on in the year. So that's why if the rest of the team is rusty, it's why it's especially important early on in a season that if you're a Dak Prescott, a Jalen Hurts, your QB1 is on his A game, because that is the way I think Dallas and any team is able to pull an upset off. Even you look at in the NFC East last year, a historic rookie year from Jaden Daniels, got a roster that maybe didn't belong in the NFC Championship all the way to the NFL's Final Four in Washington. So I agree with you.
QB1 to play like a QB1. Like it's that simple.
Yeah, right. And Dak Prescott, by the way, Marcus, like he did not play the Eagles last year. So as you mentioned with the Fangio track record, like we haven't seen Dak go up against this version of the Eagles defense because last year we got, it was Cooper Rush. And then the second game, it was all backups.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had Dak play the Eagles. Now he's played again, 2023. He played an awesome game in Dallas. He also played pretty well in the Philadelphia one. So we'll see. That's going to be the key. I hate to boil it down to which quarterback plays better is probably going to win the game. But honestly, Louis, more often than not, That's kind of what the NFL is.
I was going to say, sometimes you hate to make it that black and white, but sometimes it truly is that. And I think that could be what happens in week one, just across the board in the entire NFL. For the Eagles, again, I think the keys to the victory, it's different than Dallas because they are the favorite. I think you can't let the passing game go off in Dallas. You got to limit CeeDee Lamb. I'm not saying shut him out because I think it's very hard. CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion, is a top 3, top 5 receiver in the NFL. So you're not going to completely take him out of the football game, but I would want Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean covering him 100% of the time, because if you can limit CeeDee Lamb, again, I just don't know how Dallas gets this victory. Also, on the other side of the football, obvious, like you said, don't turn the ball over. Don't give Dallas short fields. My third thing, though, is test Dallas vertically. Like you said, the secondary is what Dallas sees as the, strength of that football team. But naturally in that secondary, I think, Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs are naturally aggressive corners. And I think if you can get them to bite maybe on some double moves, Devontae Smith's had a good track record against the Cowboys. I would definitely want to test them vertically, though. I know Saquon's still going to be their bread and butter, and they're going to run the football, especially if they have a lead. Time of possession will be key. But I do want to see them get more aggressive and vertically in the passing game quicker than they did last season.
And I would mention for Dallas, it's the same thing, right? Like, Saquon's going to have a big game. Like, I have absolutely no doubt. But like we saw in that Rams game last year, Saquon had a monster game, but because the Rams were able to limit the passing attack, they stayed in the game, right? So Saquon's going to get his. Just don't give up those 60-yard bombs to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. And again, the Cowboys are putting a lot of hope and faith in these corners. Trayvon Diggs coming off a knee injury, Deron Bland likely playing in the slot, Kyer Elam playing on the outside. We'll see how that matchup goes for Dallas. But if they can hang on at all at that side, they might be okay on defense.
All right, Marcus, I normally don't like to do predictions because I think, I'm going to take the Eagles. And, normally you'd like to take your team. But I do like to go on FanDuel and see where your head's at with some of these lines. Like at 8.5. Do you think Dallas covers 8.5 here?
I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is competitive for a while. And then Philadelphia just pulls ahead at the end. Again, this is everything is setting up for the Eagles to have a big game. They can run the ball. Once they get ahead, they can really choke you out here in these games. I would take Philadelphia to win by double digits. Okay. Do I think it's going to be close into the fourth quarter? Probably not, but I would take Philadelphia to win and cover.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they cover that 8.5. The over-under right now is at 47.5. If, again, Dallas does make them competitive, that tells me that over hits.
I'm taking the over because it's going to have to be. Like, Dallas is going to have to turn this into a shootout. And I think, honestly, one of the things that Matt Eberflus, the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator, knows is he's got an offense that can put up points. So he's going to be aggressive. I think you're going to see more blitzes than ever before trying to create those splash plays. So I think both teams score in the upper 20s at least, and that means the over hits by a mile.
I'm with you on both. I think the Eagles cover that 8.5, the over on 47.5 hits. Football is back. Week 1 tonight kicks off the 2025 NFL season. Eagles, Cowboys at 8:20 kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. That'll do it for Crossover Thursday. For Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys, I'm Louie DiBiase of Locked On Eagles. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles and Locked On Cowboys your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.